The year is 117 AD. You are a Roman soldier, an advanced scout for the Ninth Legion, standing alone in the cold, wet peat of Caledonia. A thick mist hangs, not just concealing the forest, but muting the very air around you. The silence is wrong. It's a heavy, listening silence, broken only by your own strained breathing. Your hand instinctively grips the gladius. The other 5 men from your patrol? Gone. Just the drip of unseen water, and then a flicker. A shape in the mist, painted in blue woad, a glint of bronze, a face twisted in a permanent, silent scream. It vanishes. You are not the hunter here, and you would not have survived. 5,450 men. A full Roman legion, hardened by a century of conquest. Then, in the early 2nd century, they simply walked off the edge of the world. Every single man, every standard, every piece of equipment erased. The official records in Rome just stop. How does an army of nearly 6,000 elite soldiers disappear without a trace, without a single survivor? And what does it say about the world you live in, about the histories you trust, that something so vast and powerful can be so completely deleted from memory? The Roman Empire, at its zenith, stretched from Britain to Egypt. Its legions were the most formidable fighting force the ancient world had ever seen. A meticulously organized, brutally efficient machine. When Rome wanted something, it took it. When it encountered resistance, it crushed it. You need to picture an empire that believed itself eternal, invincible. Its administrative records were legendary for their detail, tracking everything from grain shipments to individual soldiers' pay. For an entire legion to vanish without a single official explanation is not just unusual, it's unprecedented. But the official explanation is the least of what was missing. For decades, the Ninth Legion had been Rome's spearhead in Britannia, pushing north, building forts, subjugating tribes. Then, in 117 AD, Emperor Hadrian made a fateful decision. He ordered the construction of a massive wall across northern Britain, a clear line in the sand. Historians debate the exact timing, but many believe the Ninth Legion was tasked with securing the territory north of the proposed wall, a final, brutal push against the Caledonian tribes. Roman commanders were reportedly sending increasingly urgent dispatches to Rome, detailing ambushes and skirmishes that were bleeding his forces dry. Scouts were returning with grim reports of tribal gatherings, of war paints and sharpened spears. The legion's last known movements involved a deep penetration into hostile territory, far beyond the established Roman frontier. If you had been in that room listening to the reports, you would have felt the dread building. And that dread was about to become something far worse. For centuries, the disappearance of the Ninth Legion has been a whispered legend, a ghost story told around campfires and in academic halls. The romantic notion of an entire army swallowed by the mist, by vengeful Picts, or even by something more supernatural has captivated imaginations. But this wasn't just a mysterious event, it was a deliberate act of historical erasure. The real reason for the silence, the lack of records, the sudden void, points to a far more uncomfortable truth than a simple military defeat. Think about the person you trust most in your life. Now imagine them deliberately hiding a catastrophic failure from you, not just for their own reputation, but to maintain an illusion of invincibility. And the lengths they went to in order to hide it are truly shocking. The Roman Empire was built on an image of strength and unwavering success. Any significant defeat, especially one involving an entire legion, would have been a devastating blow to its prestige, potentially sparking rebellions in other provinces. The political climate in Rome was always precarious, and a perceived weakness could unravel years of conquest. What you've been told is wrong. The Ninth Legion didn't just disappear. It was actively disappeared from the historical record. Here's what should make you uncomfortable. The official Roman histories, meticulously kept, contain no mention of the Ninth Legion after 117 AD, a stark omission for a unit of its prominence. The truth of what happened to the Ninth Legion, and who was responsible for its deliberate erasure from history, is far more chilling than any battle. What happened to them was not a single event, but something much more drawn out and horrific. The Ninth Legion was not annihilated by Picts in a single glorious battle. Instead, what you now understand is that they were systematically destroyed, not by a single enemy, but by a series of devastating, unacknowledged defeats at the hands of multiple Caledonian tribes over several years, culminating in their complete disintegration. The final blow came not in a dramatic last stand, but in a slow, agonizing bleed-out, forcing the remnants to be disbanded and their standards retired in disgrace. And the evidence for this slow destruction was there all along, hidden in plain sight. The answer you've been waiting for is that the Ninth Legion was not lost in a single catastrophic event, but rather suffered such a prolonged and humiliating series of defeats in northern Britain that the Roman authorities chose to erase its existence from official records. There was no single disappearance, but a gradual attrition and eventual disbandment, deemed too shameful to be publicly acknowledged. Evidence from later Roman military diplomas and inscriptions shows soldiers being transferred from the Ninth Legion before 117 AD, suggesting a unit already being cannibalized due to heavy losses. Furthermore, archaeological evidence from Scotland points to a sustained, brutal insurgency by native tribes, not a single overwhelming victory. The empire couldn't admit such a prolonged failure, so they simply stopped mentioning the Ninth. What they left out speaks volumes. The mist of Caledonia, which once swallowed a legion, still hangs over the truth. The next time you encounter a gap in history, a sudden silence where there should be a roar, remember the Roman soldier, alone in the peat, his comrades gone. Remember that sometimes the most terrifying stories are not about what happened, but about what powerful forces decided you should never know.